Many of you know that the NFL playoffs are in full swing. And don't worry, this is not a sports ball show. We're not going to talk sports ball tonight. We're going to talk magic instead. Now, the weird part is with the actual NFL playoffs happening, something has happened. And Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs is he plays a position called the tight end. Make your jokes. And but basically, he's now the new boyfriend of one Taylor Swift. All right, Taylor Swift of all people, right? And it's got a ton of press, and again, the Kansas City Chiefs, Taylor Swift, all the rest of this stuff. You can't watch a damn Chiefs game anymore without them cutting to Taylor every time something happens, because she's now attending all the games. And just before we get into this, I want to make it very clear that personally, I don't have anything against Taylor Swift. Okay, so everybody relax. I'm not picking on a girl, as can be said. It's not like that. Matter of fact, funny enough, it even is something where I've been to a Taylor Swift concert. Yes, Michael Strange been to a Taylor Swift concert. But basically, just to explain myself there, so you don't, easy on the judgment. It was part of a larger set of concerts called Rock in Rio here in Vegas. It was years back, and that's where I saw Ed Sheeran also. Again, judgment, go ahead with the judgment. But oddly enough, it was one of those ones where Taylor was the headliner at the end of the night. And the group I was with was like, nah, we didn't want to stick around for this, right? And I was like, nah, come on, let's stay, guys. We're here. I mean, it's, we didn't pay for it, but we got in with a friend of ours had was in from Portugal, got his tickets. Anyway, it's a long story, but anyway, so just to kind of back up on that is I made the group I was with stay so I could sit there and watch Taylor Swift. And the reason why is because I wanted to see if what the magic was about, because at the time she was still, years ago, she was still one of the biggest pop stars in the world, right? And to me, when you kind of consider that, I'm like wondering where that magic is, okay, where that something she has that other individuals don't, and so I'm waiting for like a magic moment or something, right? And well. I don't know. It kind of never came. So I don't know, like maybe I'm immune. You know what I mean? Like I'm a grown man and I'm not a Swiftie and I'm not screaming and waving my arms and yay and knowing every word to every song, right? Maybe there's something like that. But I don't know. So anyway, just full disclosure, like I said, I have nothing against Taylor Swift, but we are going to be talking about Taylor Swift tonight. Now back to sports ball and the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay. Now the thing is this, there's a, well, I don't know. It seems like there's something magical happening with this entire thing. And, some might even describe Taylor as I'm describing her tonight, as the Zeitgeist Sorceress. Because if you've seen some of her actual recent tour called Eras, well, we'll get into that. Back to the sports ball and where this all started, where this idea started. And a quick shout out, of course, to the compatriots out there, the Padres, or compadres, as it were. Not Padres, that's weird. But James and Derek helping put the show together a little bit last night as well. Shout out to the boys out there. So here's the thing too. So it started like this, and I was watching, had the Bills game on, and the Bills and Chiefs, and anyway, so Taylor Swift was there, of course. But I did notice this. There was a whole lot of press regarding all of this, everything. There was really no way around it, because you have basically the largest pop star in the world, biggest, most famous, all the rest of that, all the awards, all the albums sold, all the things, okay, all the damn things. But then it's coming together at like sort of this double zeitgeist situation where you have a mass amount of time and energy into these NFL playoffs, and these teams that have been grinding it all year, and football is a violent sport, and people clacking into each other. They say, a professional athlete playing professional football experiences the equivalent of say the 2 car crashes per game or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, so all that aside, like I said, we're not going to talk sports ball tonight, but back to this. Now, I did notice that this was the type of stuff that was happening because the Kansas City Chiefs were playing on the road in Buffalo. That's all we need to know about the sports ball. But headline from the Democrat and Chronicle, and this was reported in many other places as well. Taylor Swift head cutout burned in dumpster fire by Bills fan before Chiefs playoff game. And this is the type of stuff that was sort of happening, right? Like burning the Taylor Swift effigy, or right, like something like this to maybe break the curse, or and I don't know, like there's a lot of sort of sports ball stuff you can get into in that sense, but I don't want to bore you guys because I know there's probably not a sports ball crowd. Probably, I'm guessing. Maybe you are. I don't know. But okay, so back to this. Check this out. So Travis Kelce's girlfriend received some booze upon entering Highmark Stadium for the Buffalo Bills playoff game against the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday. A cutout of her head was burned in a fire down the street in the more debaucherous tailgates. In a video on social media, a Bills fan wearing a Josh Allen jersey shows a cardboard cutout of Swift's head on a stick to the camera. He carries the cutout over to the dumpster fire, an actual fire, not a euphemism for his temperament. So clever, these writers, and tries unsuccessfully for several seconds to hang it on a charred pallet. The man-child eventually rests the Swift head on the top of the can, while a couple of adults hold a sign and stare awkwardly into the abyss. Well written. Let me play this. Let me mute the tab so it doesn't play any audio, and you can see what they're talking about here. There we go. I'll just play this TikTok. Oh no, it won't even play. All right, forget it. Anyway, but you get the idea. So they have this little effigy of Taylor Swift, her head on a stick. It's a cardboard cutout, and they're burning it, right? Of course, for what? For what though? For what? And again, is it just for the lulz, or is this sort of kind of a counter spell on Taylor Swift? And what I mean by that is, okay, now here's the question for tonight as we go. So regarding Taylor Swift and, let's say, the Zeitgeist itself, is it possible to have, let's say, the entire world enraptured in your being, in yourself? They say that the Eras tour with Taylor Swift made over $1 billion. It's probably well beyond that now, because I don't really keep track of these things, because why would I count somebody else's money? That's weird. But it's helped the economy in a ton of ways. All the Swifties and all the just the massive amount of fans that they have. That Taylor has is just incredible. And this whole bit, when you kind of bring it all together, this is a ton of energy happening in this NFL playoff game. Like I said, all the toil and drama and everything to get to this point. But then you also have it sort of converging with the biggest pop star in the world in this stadium, where people are booing her, people are jeering her, and all the rest, right? And so I don't know. It kind of got me thinking in terms of not just burning effigies, but also what about the larger concept of magic? And is Taylor, let's say, like a Zeitgeist sorceress, as I'm calling this? And we'll get into the revelation of the method as well tonight. I think it fits into this a little bit, because this is one we've never really talked about on this show. The revelation of the method. It was one of those ones that I'm like, the Satanist thing. I don't know. We'll talk about it just as an example, of course, because I don't really know. I have no answers, as you know, from me. And I do encourage you to remember there are no answers to be found here. We're just discussing ideas and theories and kind of parsing other people's ideas sometimes as well. And this comes into play with this revelation of the method thing. But the question for you guys tonight is this. Is it possible that a pop star so big like this can actually sort of begin to alter reality itself? Because think about it this way. So that's the first question. And think about it in terms of Taylor Swift, but of course not just that. You can think of generational type talents like the Beatles, what Elvis, things like this, like these individuals that were just larger than life in this span or the place where they were actually, at their peak. And I guess we could probably argue right now that maybe Taylor is probably at her peak, right? I mean, I would guess. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a Swiftie, or I don't really listen, but I don't know. It is weird. It is weird, all of this. But so is it possible to actually sort of alter reality with this level of fame and this level of not just the music, but also sort of the theatrics and all the rest? We'll get into the tour and some of that stuff as we go tonight. And how deep does it go? Because, of course, the revelation of the method, never mind, we'll get into that later. But here's the thing. You go back to the Beatles, you go back to Elvis, and remember all the screaming girls and, people fainting, and just so much energy kind of poured into these moments of, meeting their idols or seeing the music live, or, all the rest of this stuff. And it does make me wonder, like, what is actually at play here? And of course, one of the things that does come to mind, and we've talked about this in the past as well, is that typically, we don't see a, middle-aged guy like me fainting when, a pop star walks by. Okay. Is that happening? I don't think that's happening. What's happening is a bunch of very young, impressionable people are sort of overwhelmed with this energy somehow. And this is what I mean. Like maybe the impressionable type is sort of not immune to the energy itself, or the spectacle spectacle, or even, dare I say, the magic? And that's where the questions come in tonight. Is all this possible, or is this just, again, wild and weird stuff that kind of tracks or doesn't track in the largest sense of magic or not magic? Because if you look at, again, music, we've talked about this in the past. Shout out Sir Tank if you're out there. We need to do a show again soon. We talked about music and magic and sort of being able to not manipulate people, but alter people's perceptions of the world and consciousness. And, as you know, you put on a very bleak song and your mood can kind of turn down. You turn on a very happy song and you can kind of, be pumped up and this type of thing. So I do wonder if there's sort of a way to kind of weave in that sort of art form to achieve something greater, achieve something that's not only able to take the impressionable and make them faint and freak out, and again probably change the entire paradigm for the rest of their life, but also be able to maybe control them in some way. I don't know. And that becomes a question here. And now I know it's called the Zeitgeist Sorceress. Now you know, my friend. Yes, indeed. Okay, so that's where we're at tonight. Like, how deep does this go? And weird, right? Weird that they're burning effigies of Taylor Swift before this Chiefs game, number one. What's up with that? And so the second layer of questions is, first of course, is Taylor, generational sort of talent, these Zeitgeist Sorceress or Zeitgeist bands, the Beatles, Elvis, things like this, and the actual magical, let's say magical, quote, power that they have. Real? Nah, somewhere between. Then, is it possible then? Because like I said, all this energy pouring into these NFL stadiums with Taylor there, okay, probably arguably the biggest pop star in the world right now. And then, so there's all that energy, but then there's also the energy of this entire egregore of the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills fan base kind of coming to a head in this one space. And if you talk about emotional energy, and we talked about this during the Las Vegas show, we kind of talked about sort of this resonant emotional energy that's probably always here in Vegas, because people are the highest of highs and the lowest of lows with winning or losing money, things like this. Yeah, but I do wonder if when you take all of this energy and slam it all into one space like that, if other things are happening. You see what I mean? So how weird does it get? And of course, what I mean is, so now we're burning effigies from the actual, one egregore, the Buffalo Bills fan base. And then we have Taylor Swift inside, who's now aligned with the Zeitgeist Sorceress, aligned with the egregore of the Kansas City Chiefs fan base. You see what I mean? So we sort of have like these power structures of these mass tulpas coming together, and not only that, in a contentious way, sort of competing with each other. So is it possible that you can actually through counter magic, let's say, burning the effigy of Taylor Swift, which seems silly, but could you actually counter whatever magic she's bringing to the game? You know what I mean? Well, it turns out, spoiler alert, the Kansas City Chiefs did win that game, and that's covers our sports ball coverage. It ends our sports ball coverage for the night. But, which of course means that I guess you can't, because the Taylor Swift magic came through in the end. But so I don't know. So what is going on with this? And then we will get into this revelation of the method a little bit later, because there's something weird with this as well. But that's where we're at. That's where we begin. And let's see. Let me read a little bit of this, because this is important to get us going and reframe this. Because again, like I said, the Eras tour with Taylor Swift made over $1 billion, 1.5, 2 billion. I don't, like I said, we were counting other people's money, but here you go. So Taylor Swift's Eras tour has proven both spellbinding and impactful beyond those actually in attendance. With elaborate staging and costumes evoking Swift's musical eras, the production enthralls audiences while drawing accusations of occultism from some critics. Dismissed by others as mere spectacle, the tour has had profound emotional and communal effects, reaching far beyond the stadium walls. Now, okay, so I'll pick up there in just a second. But here's the wild part, is there's a ton of articles, again, shout out Derek the Night Stalker. I found some of these myself as well, but he was talking about this stuff that, Taylor Swift, and hopefully he'll call in a little bit later and we can talk about this, but she's been sort of teasing the idea that, she's a witch, and these witchcraft type of things are actually real in some sense. And if you look at this, like again, you go to, this is from Snopes, funny enough. Did Taylor Swift perform witchcraft on stage during the Eras tour? Well, I mean, if Snopes is talking about it, it must be a thing, right? I'm just joking about that. I mean, Snopes, whatever. But yeah, so anyway, so you read through this thing and you get to the bottom and it says this. Actually, let me read this. This is from a YouTube video in 2023 purporting to analyze Taylor Swift's dangerous descent into witchcraft, sorcery, and casting spells. Dun, dun, dun. So a little transcript from it. Taylor Swift seemed like a sweet, professing Christian pop country singer. So what happened to her? During her Eras tour, you'll see in this video, Taylor clearly is dancing witches' coven ceremonies during her Willow song, and she is posting about witchcraft, sorcery, and casting spells. A witch school even welcomed Taylor into their tribe. Tragically, though, even if Taylor genuinely doesn't believe she's a witch, she is glorifying witchcraft and is influencing audience members toward witchcraft itself. And that's from this video here. I'm not, those are my words. I'm reading some other thing. But so you read a little bit more. And so Swift's onstage performance was clearly a live performance adaptation of the music video for Willow, straight from Snopes, in which at the 2:16 mark, a number of golden orbs surrounded by fiery light rise up in a forest as people in capes dance around it. Now, we'll get back to that a little later because, of course, the golden orbs in the forest, the rest of this stuff, very, very troubled mindsy, right? And of course, the orb is one of those things that we've talked about quite a lot in not just the UFO realm, but in other spaces as well. Okay, so now the bizarre part is you scroll down to as you would expect at the bottom of Snopes here, and it says, is she, does incorporating fairy tale symbolism in some of her songs and performances mean Swift literally practices or promotes the practice of witchcraft? It does not. The old famous Snopes. Nope, not true. Then the red X or whatever. You know how Snopes does it. But and I would play some of these clips, but because she is the largest pop star in the world, if I play these clips, we'll probably get taken down instantly. So I'm gonna leave it up to you to go watch these videos on your own, and you make those determinations. But we're just talking about the possibilities tonight. The possibilities of not just witchcraft, but the possibilities of a songstress so powerful, so charming, and adept at weaving a narrative through song that she's actually able to influence reality itself. And of course, that just means the perception of reality to the people there, okay? And that's where the sort of nuance of what magic is or is not kind of comes into play, because that's really what this has always been about, right? This whole idea of, is magic real? We talk about this often. How does this stuff play in the real world? Or are there people that maybe have found a way to kind of conquer these old ways and bring them about in new ways? And, you could make some cases for a whole bunch of people. Taylor's one of them, of course. Like I said, the Beatles was one of the biggest bands in the world at one time. Elvis Presley could shake his hips and people around the world start fainting. You know what I mean? Things like this. So it's actual physiological responses to music and the persona of the actual individual or the group themselves. You see what I mean? So I don't know. And that becomes the weird part of this, because people do have actual physiological responses to, meeting or, being in close proximity or, and like I said, even fainting and things like this. It's super strange to me. I don't know. Like I said, maybe the long, my being a smidge long of tooth in the middle age realm of not really being so excited about, it's another person, it's a talented person, sure, but are we gonna faint and pass out? I mean, I think my cynicism maybe has gotten to me, and my sense of wonder has long gone the way of the dodo. But basically, the question becomes tonight: what is going on with this, and how much actual power is kind of projected through somebody like Taylor Swift? And think about it this way too: you have that sort of emotional resonance. We talk about the egregores, the Zeitgeist, the tulpas, things like this. But what if instead there's something else happening, where it's sort of this amplification of energy, where let's say Taylor begins a bit, she a song, this or that, everybody kind of goes into this trance-like state, and even to the point where they're sort of chanting back as they're part of the ritual, which we'll get into tonight because there's some really weird stuff with that. Hopefully Derek's going to call a little later, and I'll save some of that for him because he's the one who pointed it out to me. But that's what's going on. That's what's on my mind tonight, this idea of the Zeitgeist sorceress and this revelation of the method, which we will get to in the back half of the show, because I think it's important here to kind of consider that the idea of magic itself may not be as, let's say, straightforward as many people might imagine it to be. Or, like I said, maybe magic isn't real at all. That's exactly the point of these conversations. That's why we do this, and that's what we're going to do tonight. Hanging out, just doing what we do, and considering all the wild possibilities. And all the disclaimers always apply. There's no truth to be found around here. This is just ideas. This is just kicking the can, the cosmic soccer ball back and forth, as we say, and considering what may or may not be real in this crazy world we live in. And that's that. That's what's on my mind tonight. I hope you guys are having a fantastic Monday night. Remember, Monday doesn't suck. It's your job that sucks, but at least Monday is over. Yeah. And then let's just kick back and talk about wild stuff. Yeah, so that's what's going on tonight. And the weirdness of this, can an egregore itself battle the Zeitgeist Sorceress through some sort of magical aspect? Taylor Swift is now the girlfriend of Travis Kelce of a Kansas City chief. Now, the weird part about this is all the energy that kind of came together in one spot. And there were people burning effigies, basically cardboard cutouts of Taylor Swift in the parking lot, and just a ton of energy happening here. And so it brought to mind a number of things. Number one, is it possible to be, let's say, a powerful sorceress in the modern day? Meaning that Taylor Swift is definitely, whether you want to call her a generational talent, it's up to you. It's all subjective stuff. I'm not trying to say one way or the other. But the other thing is that is it possible to sort of transcend those ideas of just a mere artist and become something that can actually shift let's say, the tides of reality to this massive, impressionable young audience? Maybe not. And maybe, again, maybe I'm out of line as usual, which is about, where I typically roll, just out of line, and, thin arguments. And I'm not even making arguments anyway. So what do you think about it? That's really the question here. And is it possible to actually alter reality through musical magic? And again, not just Taylor Swift in this sense, but we can go back to the Beatles or Elvis, or you pick the time and you pick the artist, and kind of consider the pinnacle of magic and how it fits into this conversation. Real, not, or somewhere in between.